Welcome back to the Meeple Marathon. Today we're going to be taking a look at Domain of Mirza Noctics. This is the fourth volume of the HEXplore It series, which is essentially kind of a RPG in a box. It's one of the closest things you can get to kind of playing out an RPG where there's a lot of dice rolls, a lot of just increasing and decreasing your stats, things like that. That you can get in kind of board game form. So this is actually my first edition of any HEXplore It game, but from what I've seen, it's a lot of fun if you are into character creation. Essentially, if you are very much enjoy upgrading your character in games and choosing the path they're going to go on and things like that, this is probably a game for you. Before we dive into the box here, I do want to just show off this nifty little gift here. It's essentially like a little poster. It's 8 by 10, probably something like that. But it's pretty cool. The way it's like a holofoil or something. What did they call it? They didn't call it hydrofoil or something like that. But anyways, I just thought that was pretty cool. So that was like a free gift to all the backers. This is just the base game. Since this is my first time jumping into the HEXplore It series, I wanted to make sure that I would enjoy it before I kind of went all in on anything. So let's take a look at what's inside. All right, nice sturdy box. Let's see here. Greetings, adventurers. We placed this volume's punchboards underneath the plastic insert. Okay, check out the HEXplore It companion app for more hero randomization options. Okay, and that's it. All right, and then what do we have here? So, Domain of Mirza Noctics. I'm sure I will mispronounce that at some point. All right. Volume 4. How does this fold out? Okay. Alright, so nice, big, wide shot, but I see what they're doing here. You notice down here in the corner, we are looking at Volume 5. So this is essentially a teaser for the next iteration of HEXplore It, the Mountain of Godai. So there he has, it has a very Aztec theme with some dragons. So have no fear. If you like what you see and you're wanting to jump in on a Kickstarter, looks like one is coming. All right, we've got some baggies here. Lots of dice. Like I mentioned, there's a lot of dice rolling. There's D10s, there's D12s, there's D6s, there's even a couple D3s in here. We'll take a look at these dice here in just a second. A whole bunch of placards there, some cards. The card stock's really nice, nice and thick, and has that glossy feel to it. I know that a lot of these boards you can see have that shine to them because they are dry erase boards, and a lot of the stuff in this game is dry erase because you are changing and updating the numbers so much. Now, before we dive any deeper, I want to show off this rule book here. Pretty normal looking rule book. It's actually kind of small, but look at how thick this thing is. It is 90, if you include the back cover, 96 pages. At least there is an index in the back. But yeah, a lot to get through here. So we'll see how quickly I can get this to the table. Playstyles book. Now this is interesting. So I believe this is a way you can play various iterations of the game in general. So double up, quick play, multiple heroes, one player, marathon, splitting up groups, bounty hunter. I mean, a ton of options here of different ways to play. And here they're saying how to combine. This is Domain of Mirza Noctics, so the DOMN is this volume. Valley of the Dead King is the first volume. Forests of Adamar and Sands of Shirak. I believe I'm pronouncing all that correctly. But basically, you can, if you have some of those, you can combine them together to make like super games. Not to mention that every role and race in the other ones is compatible with this one. So lots going on in this box. It's not a huge box, but it is heavy. There is a lot of stuff in here. So, all right, let's take a quick look at some dice here before we go any further. So, boom, boom, boom. Just trying to pull out a range. I believe that covers most of them. So, you have your D6 where the hex symbol is the 6. All right. Usually on this, you're wanting to roll high, but not necessarily. Then you have your 3, these 3 here. Your 3 D10s. These are going to be rolling against, you can see here, your skills. So there's green for navigate, yellow for explore, and blue for survival. These you actually want to roll low. So the hex symbol you see here is actually the 1 and is, again, a critical success. So you've got, critical success rolling high on this one, critical success rolling low on these. Then you have, this one is really just meant to be a counter. You can see it goes all the way down to -6 and then ticks up to at least +5 there. So I know this is a counter for the boss, MIRZA Noctis, the vampire. Then you have this, which appears to be a standard D12. The hex being the 1. I know that you roll this like if your character dies. I don't know what else you might use this for, but I'm hoping there's more than just one use for it. It's a nice little die. It's called the moon die. And then there's these D3s, which are really interesting. They've got these curved sides, so it's never going to stay on those ends. This is very different than any D3 I've seen personally, but these are for kind of keeping track of the minions, I guess is the easiest way to put them, as they run rampant through cities and start sucking people's blood. You have to take care of them or cities will fall, and that's just bad news. But anyways, those are the dice, and like you can see, there's lots of dice. You can play up to 6 players in this game, so there is at least one of each of these for every player, and then one of each of these for every blood collector there could be. All right. So we've got ourselves an insert here, several layers of an insert, which is looking nice. Lots of dry erase boards over here. So let's take a look at these cards first. So these are all cardboard stock. And these are going to be aspects, greater aspects, as well as the race cards and keepsake cards. So these were in one stack of that upper tray. Keepsakes are something new to HEXplore It, and essentially everybody, if you want to play with them, are randomly given one at the beginning of the game, and you keep it face down. And then if you die and you don't receive a greater aspect, or maybe it's the other way around. Anyways, a keepsake is a way for you to be brought back to life, essentially, if you can kind of make a saving roll. If you do so, however, you're going to be limited in your masteries to these 2, and each one of these has different stuff here, and then there's certain keywords you might hit on that's going to make these cheaper, but that's what keepsakes are. So we're going to set those off to the side. Then you have your aspects and greater aspects. So aspects, again, are something that is optional or something that you might gain throughout the game, and really they're just going to change your stats. You can see there's some positives here and some negatives. Also, you're going to gain something like here, you gain the bribe proficiency. You're also going to update your food rating modifier. Cultist here,
you know, updates your attack ability. Most of these are updating your attack ability. So they all have this back on them. And again, I haven't quite figured out whether or not these are considered to make the game easier or harder, or if you should always play with them, or if they're just like a optional module you can add. But anyways, these are regular aspects. You'll notice that right there it just says aspect, because these right here, these are much better explained as greater aspects are what you could possibly gain upon dying, and if you make a proper roll, you could become reanimated, or you could become a zombie, you could become a vampire. So these again are going to completely change your character. You know, it's going to change the stats, give you certain abilities, and I believe change your masteries as well. So change your food rating, but for the rest of the game you will be playing as like a Lycan or a damned or blessed or reanimated zombie, something like that. So I thought this was cool. Basically, dying in the game is not necessarily the end. So between greater aspects and keepsakes, it's two ways to keep you alive if you end up perishing in the game. Last but not least, here we have the roll or the races. So these, again, you choose one. You can choose one randomly, or you can select one specifically at the beginning of the game, and this is combined with your rolls. So these are the, you know, stat modifiers that you're gonna increase various stats for. Sometimes there might be one in here that might be a negative. I haven't seen one yet, but this is also going to give you your food rating. And so this is how much food you need to consume if you don't pass your survival skill check. And then a little special ability down here, also a favorite opponent. Here's one that's more normal, humanoid. So anytime if you are playing as the gutter gnome and you come across a humanoid, you're going to be allowed to roll the hex die here, the d6, in combat, and it's going to give you some bonuses, things like that. So unfortunately, the backs of all of these are all the same. I was hoping for some unique artwork on the back of these, similar to the roll cards, but that's fine. So I'm just going to shut up for a minute and let you guys take a look at all of these. Alright, so that's going to do it for our races. And again, all previous races, if you have a previous volume of HEXplore It, are compatible with all of these roles in this game. So this is just a mixture of the combinations you can have. The last set of cards, and these are dry erase placards, really, you can see how shiny they are the familiars. So these actually do have unique artwork on the back side of each, which is really cool. And there's a little bit of artwork on the front, so it's basically just a blown up version of what's on the front here. But these are animal companions that you can gain. There's actually no limit to the amount that you can gain, and once you gain a familiar, it's kind of latched onto you, it's bonded to you. You can't pass familiars around. But what familiars are going to do is essentially give you one stat, and you can see here at the very bottom of the card, a familiar's rank, and that's just whatever rank for skill they have, begins equal to 1 plus 1/3 the receiving hero's matching stat rank. So this one is clarity. So if I had, say, I'm going to do the math, make the math easy. If I had a clarity rating of 6, it would be 1 plus 2, which is 1/3 of 6, to be 3. So I would write a 3 in here, and then you can see you can pay to upgrade that stat just like your stats. Then there's going to be certain instances here. For example, anytime you spend energy to power a mastery, you may roll a stat test against clarity rank. If successful, or reduce the cost by 1. So it tells you how this familiar can assist you, and each one of them is different. They're all going to have different stats that they use. For example, the turtle here has a runic shell, which is going to assist with defense. Also, you'll notice here at the bottom above where it tells you how to get their rank, gain through a random familiar draw. Okay, this one says gain through a random familiar draw or purchase in a monastery. And I believe that's the same one that the owl says. So it tells you how you could find this particular familiar. So if you get through here and you're like, I really want a crow, I really feel like it fits my character, you can gain them by finding them in the night deck or doing a random familiar draw. So that would give you a little bit of indication as to where to go find those particular familiars if you have a favorite. All right, let's get back to the box. All right, our next row of trays here, we've got some cubes. These are going to be for tracking. These are just standard wooden cubes, black underneath and white on top. These are tracking your critical wounds and your clues. No, nothing too fancy about that. This is one of the Kickstarter exclusives, I believe. If I can get it open here. This is simply just a two-sided coin. I don't think it's meant to be flipped. I guess you could flip it if you couldn't decide, but this is how do you want to travel in the game? Each round you most likely are going to travel. Do you want to travel during the day or do you want to travel at night? And that's going to change the encounters you might see, how fast and how far you can travel, things like that. So I guess if you as a group couldn't decide, because even if you're playing with 6 players, everybody stays in the same group. You all travel together, very much like an RPG. It's not like one person can go one way on the map. So this is really just to remind the group, hey, we traveled by day or we traveled by night. But it's a nice thick coin, decent size. It would flip nicely. Just make sure you catch it. Then a nice silk bag here, silk screened bag for your Rune Stones, which are right here. So I know these were a upgrade as part of the Kickstarter. I don't know whether this Rune Stone bag and or the kind of beaded Rune Stones are going to be in retail copies, but these are meant to be, you can see that they are various shapes underneath, meant to be placed on the map, and they are going to represent various things on the map, and you may be drawing them from said bag. But there you can see all the greens are squares, all the red ones are circles, and all the blue ones are triangles, and they can be stored in this bag here. Decent bag. Hoping I'm not having to pull out of it a lot. I could basically get like 2 fingers in there. I really cannot get my thumb and forefinger. I guess I can barely get my thumb and forefinger in there. Anyways, that is it for this tray. What do we got underneath? Ooh, tuck boxes. I like tuck boxes. So these are representing the various cards, decks of cards, and it's really nice touch. You can see they each have some unique backgrounds here on them. So I'm guessing these are not going to be stored here because this looks like where some of the kind of board and map tiles are. And then we have here 4 independent decks inside, shuffle each separately. So it looks like Rune Stone deck,
I don't know what else is in here. So let's zoom in and take a look at these now.
Here are the 4, technically 5, tuck boxes that come with the game. So these are standard size cards here, these 4, and then these are basically your dungeon cards or your blood magic cards that are slightly smaller. I don't know why necessarily they made those smaller other than to just fit everything, but what's interesting is that this deck is slightly thicker than these other boxes, so when you set everything back into the box, they don't quite, not everything sits level, so interesting design choice there. But anyways, I have actually gone ahead and de-shrinked all of these to make this process a little quicker, so you don't have to sit here and listen to me fiddle with removing shrink wrap. And I do want to point out something quite interesting that I think they did on purpose for the tuck boxes, which, while I'm getting this one open, I would like to say I really do appreciate it when companies just go ahead and give you a tuck box to hold your cards. I think it's a really nice touch, a really nice add-on, and so forth. So what we have here is our dungeon cards. So these is the smaller deck. Most of these just say dungeon on them with a particular rune color, as well as at some point here we're going to come across, here we go, blood magic. So I'm not 100% certain where these come in. I'm assuming it has to do with Mirza Noctis, but anyways, there's those. These, anytime you come across a monastery and then figure out a way to unlock it, you can enter into subterranean dungeons. So the dungeons is like a separate map that you can wander around inside and basically obtain these cards. You can see collect 2 of them equals 1 rune, and you would track your runes on your battle mat. And these have these are like encounter cards for when you're inside the dungeon. What you would do is draw them. Okay, here it tells you, here's an instance where you would draw a blood magic card. Let's find one that's a little more normal here. Okay, here for example, soul locked, draw and face an encounter card. So you would do that. And this says heroes and opponents are tethered at the beginning of combat, but don't die if their health reaches 0. This effect lasts until the end of the game turn. One thing to note is that when you're in a dungeon, you're going to be spending time for movement. And so here's the amount of time it would take to complete this this event. And if you have time left over at the end, you can continue moving. You know, here's something that says you add +4 if you're ambushed, things like that. So basically, I'm not going to show off all of these because it might be spoilers, but there's 3 level of runes, and each of these, there's you know, the blue has mostly beneficial events that are going to be nicer. Green, I believe, is kind of in the middle, and red is more dangerous. But all of these, part of the name of the game is going to be collecting runes to help defeat Mirza Noctis. So you're going to want to go delving into the dungeon to get these runes. It's also going to give you power cards, other things like that. So just know that not everything is going to be on that overland map, but when you're in the dungeons, this is how you go about having encounters and such. All right, this next box, and all of these are very similar to this. The other one, the smaller one, was a little bit more full, but these, I don't know if you can hear that, all have some space in them. And I'm thinking, if I remember reading this correctly, they deliberately made these big enough to fit sleeves, kind of standard sleeves on your cards. Now, I'm not 100% sure if that's accurate. Don't quote me on that. But that appears to be why there is some extra room in all the tuck boxes. So if you're a sleever, I think there is hope for you. Anyways, this first box that we're opening up are power cards. These pretty much are just going to be, it's going to be shuffled up. You're going to draw one when you gain a power card, and you can see it's giving you bonuses to various stats. So like this one would increase your health and energy. You're also going to give, by taking it, you're going to give Mirza Noctis a +1 for that game turn. Choose ones. So here's blessed cards, things like that. So these are very simple cards. When you gain them, I'm not 100% sure if you're supposed to keep them, but there's a little bit of flavor text at the bottom, which makes them fun. So that's power-up cards. Again, in their own separate tuck box here with what appears to be space to sleeve. Up next, we have our encounter deck. So the encounter deck is just that. It's a bunch of mostly boss fights. There are a few good things in here, but if you roll a 5 or a 6 during the circumstance phase, you're going to do an encounter instead of doing one of the kind of events that you can see. So these are always going to be a surprise, and most of them are going to be like this. You know, a foe that you need to then enter combat against. So lots of foes in this deck. You know, that's the majority of the deck is foes. Lots of them very vampire themed. But there are a few things like events here, like bait and switch. Events, you would simply just do the event. And then there are some menace cards. These are going to increase the game difficulty, so you can actually choose to, at the beginning of the game, remove these, add them in, add in 1, 2, or 3. It's up to you, but you could play without the menace cards. And then you have boons, but there's only 4 of them. But these essentially give you a bonus. You roll the moon die, and you're going to gain something based on the roll. Again, the majority of this deck are the monsters. And you can see each of these has some really nice, unique artwork on each one. So that again is the encounter deck. Then these last 2 decks are very similar, except for one has night circumstances and one has day circumstances. So for the first time, I believe, in a HEXplore game, there is a kind of difference between day and night events, and so they're all going to look like this on, you know, the night side, but then on this side you're going to have a lot of different options. So here, for example, is an affliction. So at the end of your game turn, you're going to roll that 6-sided die. If this one is out and in, say, position 2, and you roll a 2, then you're going to have to deal with somebody being afflicted with lunar psychosis. Some of them have this interrupt nature, this little banner up here, which means when you draw this, you stop what you're doing and you address at least the top part of the card. Here's, well, let me see. Nope, that says explore. Here's one. So interrupt aid. As soon as you draw this card, you're going to read this top portion here, Hunter from the North. Then you'll lay it down. This one tells you that somebody's joining your group. So this is like an escort mission. But as soon as this mission comes out on the board and is available to you, you'll notice that Canthus Hollow Shade joins your group. So be on the lookout for that. There's bounties here. There are all sorts of stuff. Treasures you can find. I'm not wanting to show off a lot of the text because I don't want any spoilers. So I'm just trying to show you based on these banners at the top. These are skill tests. These are actually investigate cards. So anytime you see this here, you can actually, there's going to be a specific location you can see on tile J, map tile J, and this location is where you're going to put a green rune stone. That's going to alert you to know to do this card. But while you're waiting to get there, if you happen to roll this, say this is in slot 2 like the other one was, and you roll a 2, you actually get to put a clue on this. It's like you've gained information on the moonlit tracks, and that's going to make, for each clue that's on an investigation card, it makes it easier to complete the investigation. Also, you'll notice here this 7+ at the bottom. If you ever basically remember these skill checks are going to be looking for low numbers. So if you roll a 7 or greater, you're actually going to have to deal with something from Mirza Noctis. He's keeping an eye on you. So you can see here, if you roll a 7 plus, basically more than likely failing this investigation, everybody's going to take a 3 health hit. Here Mirza Noctis is gaining 3 into his blood pool. So that is what these cards are. There's also specific cards, or cards specific to the heroes. So if this one comes out and you're playing with this with the Warlock character, you could then go find it and obtain it, or when it rolls, then you get it. But say you're not playing as the Witch, if this one comes up, you can simply discard it and draw another one. Or you can go through at the beginning of the game if you want to and take any out that don't match characters. So half of the characters are in the night deck, the other half are in the day deck. And then there's also these 2 cards here, which have these QR codes, which are tied to the Living Card deck, which was an add-on. It's like a little mini expansion. So if you want to scan that code there, you would do so. But again, there's the night deck, and then basically the exact same thing on the day deck. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the majority of the cards in the game.
Okay, so at this point, the insert is here, and so we do need to address this giant pile of, cardboard thickness. It's not super thick. There's some bend to it, but it's not cardstock. It's somewhere in between like chipboard and cardstock, but all of them are laminated, and so you can draw on them. This one appears to just be a reference board. So, the stages of the game and condition definitions. Here we have the other half. So this one went through 1 through 2. This one is the rest of a game turn. Let's see what's on the back of this one. And keywords. So nice little reference cards here to keep on the table. Conditions, keywords, and very detailed look into the game turn. All right, then we have the battle mat. This is one of the ones you're going to be drawing on the most. Believe this might be critical wounds. I can't remember. This is like blood counter, I think, for Mirza Noctis. Is he on the back of this? No, this is items in the villages and monasteries. Okay. But basically when you do battles, you're going to be, writing whoever you're fighting's health here and their energy and reducing it down. You can write all over this board. There are some dry erase markers in this box somewhere, and that's how you keep up with everything. So there's no paper. There's no like multiple copies of this battle mat that you pull out each time you play. It's all dry erase, so reusable. So for those of you who are environmentally conscious, this is also a great game for you. All right, now we've got a whole bunch of kind of mini boss cards. I'm just gonna quietly go through these and let you take a look at them. Pretty sure that's Ozzy Osbourne. Okay, so this is, yeah, this is kind of Mirza Noctis is pretty sure you kind of keep this up and out the whole time. This is his blood pool, so the higher this gets, the more powerful he gets. You know, I'm sure something happens here, but you know, here's his augmentations. Whole lot of description stuff, but I think this game appears to do a really good job of, you know, not making you always have to dive back into a 96-page rule book to figure out what to do. So then you have some boards specific to like your monasteries, and this is the stuff you could purchase in a monastery. Then your crypts, and here's a list of well, I guess there's nothing you can purchase in a crypt, but so this is dungeons. So there are like miniature dungeons you can explore in this one. Here's villages. So again, what can you buy in a village? And here are the different blood collectors. So these are the guys who you will have to frighten out of the villages. And then the rest of these, so I think it was like 18 boss dashboards, and there are 18 monsters, which is a good amount. Here we have, I think it's 12, yeah, 12 different roles. So this is your roll board, and then you combine it with a race, similar to like a role player. And when you do, you're going to take the base stats from the roll, combine them with the modifiers from the race, and then again, writing in dry erase marker, don't write in Sharpie, writing all these, but then these numbers will increase throughout the game. Your health will go up and down, your energy will go up and down. You can write in what's in your backpack right here, whole 9 yards. So again, I'm just going to shut up, let you take a quick peek at the actual roll, and you can see here are the 2 masteries. These are like the special abilities unique to each roll. And then on the back side is the artwork for the Phosphoromancer, for example. So that is the last one. As you can see, these are not necessarily your typical fantasy tropes, and this edition of HEXplore It in particular has some very dark heroes, dark fantasy heroes, and some very unique roles that you don't see very often. And again, they try and come up with new roles for each chapter, because you can, if you have the other chapters, you can go and bring any of those very easily into this updated system. So Here we have a new bag. Not 100% sure what goes in this, except maybe the dice. Am I to put my dice in there? Maybe. That looks like a good dice bag. Here are the dry erase markers. I mean, they look decent. Decent erasers on top. Don't know how long they'll last, but dry erase markers are pretty easy to find. There's 6 of those. Then we have some miniatures just floating around here. These, I believe this is one of the bosses. I don't know why she in particular gets a miniature and not Mirza Noctis, but these two guys here are really just meant to be your party icon on the map. Not icon, but your party miniature. Remember, you all stick together, and so yeah, you're all represented by either this fella here with some kind of spine in his hands, or this Indiana Jones girl here with a hand crossbow and a saber cutlass. Anyways, so yeah, just a nice little touch that they added some of those, and again, one boss miniature. All right, so then we have this insert. This is going to hold most of your map tiles on this side, and then some of your other boards over here. Yeah, there's a way too big to fit over there, so let's take a look at those punch boards. A very thick piece of foam. Don't throw this away, ladies and gentlemen. During our reboxing video, we are going to determine whether or not this is best thrown underneath the insert in order to keep everything tighter to the lid so stuff doesn't shuffle around. All right, what's the best way to get this stuff out of here? I think it is going to be to tip everything over. This will give you guys a chance to take a quick look at the bottom of the box. So there you go. All right, let's get that out of the way. Stuff is punching out quite nicely, it would appear. So here we go. Oh man, everything's just falling apart. All right, that's why we didn't have a Mirza Noctis other board, because he gets his own special board here. So, all right, Keepsakes board, which is interesting. Keepsakes are a way to come back to life, I guess, as a spirit, and then greater aspects as a way to improve your aspects. I guess these punch out, and this is supposed to have a big hole in the middle. Anyways, these are more reference. This is kind of like a reference board. And then here is his various things. I'm wondering if that's because you can slot these in, maybe. See, here's a D6. So if you're rolling these various things, I haven't gotten to that far into the digital rulebook, but it would appear that, yeah, these can slot in right here, like so. Dawn Guard, Void Pulse, False Simulacrum, Critical Wounds Tracker. So yeah, a whole bunch of fun stuff here that's all literally just like falling apart in my hands. All right, let's try and keep this stuff a little bit together. Okay, here we have these two boards here that are falling apart easily in my hands. Is going to have your day versus night side. So this looks like the day side fits together like this, and this, as it fits off the screen here, is going to sit here. This is a way for you to track your clues. Also, your encounter deck is going to sit up here, a place for your power deck, but also these hex pieces. This is just one example here. Fit nicely up here, and so they don't slide around on you, which is just a nice touch. They've been doing this from the very beginning, having these like kind of bordered areas so that these tiles, which could easily get bumped, don't go sliding around. There's that picture again. So yeah, and then there is, you can see here, a night side one. So different encounters for the night, your encounter deck. This is for like if you get lost, but yeah. And then your various map tiles here. Like for example, this one is E, this one is F. I believe it's A, B, C, and D. Always start out on the board, but can be in various different arrangements. And so yeah, let's just kind of take a look at what's in all of this stuff here. All right, so here you can see these are the bigger ones. This one is much bigger than that other one. And so this is going to be one of your starting ones. This is also one of your starting ones. You can see here that there is various details within them. So you can see there's mountain ranges here that you can't just go over unless you have climbing gear. Campsites, here's going to be locations of bad guys. Here's another campsite, forests. There's going to be rivers you can travel on, or roads you can fast travel on. So really neat, just like very subtle artwork, but gives you clues as to how you can travel. Here is Mirza Noctis' castle tile. So this one, whenever I guess he's ready to be found or fought, you would place that somewhere, and that's where he's going to be. Then you have other locations. I believe these ones are meant to be that once you've conquered a location, like say this, you put that there, and so then this just becomes a kind of blank space, one that you can pass over without doing anything. Or if you've already camped there, you would use these kind of hex tiles to cover them up, to say nothing else to do here, nothing to see here. So then you have these shapes that we pointed out earlier. Oh, here's Mirza's castle. So I don't know what the difference between the two of them are, other than this one's bigger. Anyways, and they all have the same stuff on the back. So I guess maybe Mirza's castle could come out at any point. But you'll notice this one says Blighted Lair. So these can be thrown down at various locations, kind of change up the landscape a little bit. And I believe this is more for increased difficulty. This makes for the bad guys to become more difficult. So this game in general, especially with the placement of these tiles here and how you kind of explore them, is very akin to Mage Knight. If I had to describe this game from what I have learned about it and choosing to pledge it, it's a mix between Folklore, The Affliction, and Mage Knight, with a little bit of role player mixed in. That's kind of my judgment so far. All of those games I really enjoy. And so there we go. So this is a dungeon example. Let's see what the backside says. Yes, dungeon. So these, if you come across a dungeon, will just be placed adjacent to the map, and they're like subterranean. But you can see here that, you know, there's various ways you can go in and out, walls blocking, things like that. Dungeons are new for this iteration of HEXplore It. And then just some more dungeons. So that's really it. Not a whole lot of stuff you have to keep up with. Again, the majority of your game is played on these roll mats and this battle mat. So coming back over here, you know, focused on right here, and then these various decks of cards that we looked at earlier, is the name of the game. This is not a dice chucker like Massive Darkness or, you know, Descent, Legends of the Dark, or anything like that. This is really an RPG in a box. So anyways, if you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more content like this in the future, including, we will be doing a reboxing video just to show you how this all fits back into this insert and how well the insert does. And again, whether or not you need this piece of foam. And we will be eventually, once I get through that 96-page rulebook, be doing a how to play video, possibly a playthrough. If that's something people are interested in, please let me know in the comment section below. Otherwise, thank you for watching. Please consider subscribing and hit that bell icon so you can be notified when additional HEXplore It material drops on the channel. Once again, thanks for watching. Have a great night.